They won't tell you when it happens. They won't show you either. When an avoidant falls in love, you won't see fireworks. You'll see silence. You'll see hesitation, where most people show excitement. You'll see distance, where most show desire. And that's why you missed it. Because for the avoidant, love doesn't come with confidence. It comes with confusion. It comes with fear. It comes with the quiet, aching realization that they suddenly care. And they don't know what to do with that. When they start falling, you won't notice big changes at first. You'll notice small inconsistencies. A glance that lingers a little too long. A message that takes hours, but still somehow arrives. A question that's deeper than usual. One that hints they've been paying attention when you thought they weren't. Avoidance love in the spaces. You don't expect love to live. Between the pauses, in the overthinking, in the messages they never send, but keep rewriting in their heads. See, when the avoidance starts falling, their first instinct isn't to move closer. It's to pull away, because closeness feels like exposure, and exposure feels like danger. So they do what they've always done. They run. But this time, they run differently. They run while looking back. They retreat. But not because you did something wrong. They retreat because their body is remembering what happened the last time they were this open. Because love for them doesn't just bring hope. It brings back every memory of loss. When an avoidance starts to fall, their mind doesn't celebrate. It warns them. It whispers, "Don't trust this. You know how this ends. You'll get hurt if you stay." And their heart listens. It always has. That's why when they care, they suddenly act colder. Their words get shorter. Their tone gets sharper. They don't mean to push you away. They're trying to push away the panic that closeness brings. Because for them, love doesn't feel safe. It feels like drowning. And their body's only known way to survive is to swim back to distance. But if you look closely, you'll see the love anyway. It's in the way they check your stories, even after they stop replying. It's in the small things they remember that you mentioned once, weeks ago. It's in the way they say, "I'm not good at this," because that's the only way they know how to say, "I care, and it scares me." It's in the way they go quiet, right after a deep moment, because the intimacy registered, and their nervous system couldn't handle it. They don't disappear because they don't care. They disappear because they do. When an avoidance starts falling, they start noticing everything. They'll remember what you like, what makes you nervous, how your voice changes when you're tired. They'll start protecting you in small, almost invisible ways. They'll offer help indirectly. They'll give advice instead of affection. They'll show up quietly, instead of saying what they feel out loud. Love for them isn't loud or linear. It's hidden in acts of subtle consistency. They won't say, "I love you." They'll say, "Did you get home okay?" They won't say, "I missed you." They'll ask, "Did you eat today?" That's what love looks like. When you've been taught that needing someone is weakness, and yet, behind all that restraint, they're falling deeply. They're thinking about you. In between tasks, they're rehearsing what to say before every call. They're afraid of messing it up because you're starting to matter more than they expected you to. Avoidants don't fall in love easily. They fight it every step of the way. But when they finally do, it's not casual. It's not light. It's seismic because it means something in them has softened enough to risk being seen. But the cruel part is, you might not feel that love until it's too late. Because by the time you realize they were in love, they've probably already pulled away. You'll look back at the little moments, the ones you dismissed, and realize they were love letters in disguise. That time they shared something personal, that was huge. That message that seemed random, that was vulnerability. That night they didn't leave right away, that was their version of "I wish I could stay." Avoidants don't show love in the way the world expects. They show it through effort that feels ordinary to others, but costs them everything inside. When they start opening up, even a little, that's love. When they let you see the mess behind their calm exterior, that's love. When they argue instead of disappearing, that's love. Because it means you've reached the part of them that's never trusted anyone enough to stay seen through discomfort. You'll know they're falling when they start fighting their old instincts and choosing small moments of courage instead. They'll still pull back sometimes, but not as far. They'll still go quiet, but they'll come back faster. They'll still hesitate, but they'll let the hesitation coexist with the connection. They're learning, they're trying, they're reteaching their body. That love doesn't mean danger. That's how an avoidant falls in love. Not with a leap, but with a series of quiet, brave steps toward closeness. And the saddest part? You may not even notice it's happening, because while others fall forward, the avoidant falls inward. Their love doesn't announce itself. It hides, it tests, it fears, and still it hopes. Because beneath all that avoidance, there's a heart that wants nothing more than to feel safe enough to stay. They won't tell you they're falling. They'll show you, by what they can't hide, a tiny shift in tone, a longer pause before goodbye, an almost smile when they hear your name. It's never obvious, because to be obvious feels too exposed, but their nervous system knows. You can see it in the small ways. They start to soften, and in the bigger ways, they start to panic. When an avoidant falls in love, their body gives them away, long before their words ever will. Watch their eyes. They'll hold your gaze for half a second longer than before, and then break it like it burned. Watch their hands. They'll fidget, adjust something, pretend to look distracted, not because they're disinterested, but because every cell in their body is fighting the instinct to flee. To them, love doesn't feel safe. It feels like a spotlight on all the places they've learned to hide. The more they care, the more vulnerable they feel. And vulnerability in their body translates to threat. So they protect themselves the only way they know how, by acting detached, by pretending not to care, by turning warmth into logic. It's their survival strategy. Their nervous system says closeness equals danger. So even as they start to fall, they'll build distance just to breathe. You'll notice it in their timing. They'll message you late at night when it feels safe to be real. They'll open up in fragments, then retreat before you can respond. They'll tell you something vulnerable and then vanish for 2 days. That's not game playing. That's regulation. They don't know how to sit in emotional intensity, so they escape to calm their body. It's not that they don't feel, it's that they feel too much. Avoidants love deeply, but their love is coated in confusion. When they start caring, they also start fearing loss. So they try to control it. They analyze. They predict. They prepare for the moment. They think you'll leave. Because in their story, everyone does. And if they brace for it early, maybe it won't hurt as much when it happens. But what they don't realize is that their preparation creates the very distance they're afraid of. They fall in love while holding the exit door open. It's not that they plan to leave. It's that they need to know they can. They'll keep reminders of solitude close. Music, routines, a locked phone screen. Not because they want to push you out, but because they need proof that they still exist without you. That's the balance they fight for. Closeness without losing self. Love without surrendering safety. It's not easy. Not for them. Not for you. If you've ever loved an avoidant, you've seen this dance. You'll have moments that feel intimate and safe. Moments that make you think they're finally letting you in. And then suddenly, the air shifts. They go quiet, withdrawn. You start questioning what changed, what you said, what you did. But it's not about you. It's about what safety triggers in them. Because safety, to them, feels like the calm before the storm. It feels like that fragile peace, right before love turns into loss. So when they sense warmth, their body braces for pain. You might think they don't care, but here's the truth. They care too much to risk losing control. Love exposes them, and exposure was never safe before. So they fall in love quietly, behind walls. They let you close, but only as close as they can still run. They'll tell you just enough to feel connected, but not enough to feel dependent, because dependency, in their nervous system, feels like danger. But there are signs, small, sacred signs, that the avoidant is letting you in. They share opinions. They usually keep to themselves. They invite you into their world. Music, hobbies, routines. The safe things that don't demand vulnerability. They'll ask about your day, but listen differently now. Less casual, more attuned. They'll show interest in your comfort, your boundaries, your moods. That's not politeness. That's attachment. And if you pay close attention, you'll see the internal war. Love versus safety. One part of them reaches out. Another pulls back instantly. They'll lean closer when you speak, then subtly shift away. They'll text something tender, then follow it up with humor to dilute the intimacy. They'll do everything they can to love you safely. But love isn't safe by nature. It requires surrender, and that's their greatest fear. Still, in their quiet way, they keep trying. They'll show up when you need them. They'll do small favors. They never announce. They'll remember details and pretend they forgot. They'll hide how much they care, but you'll feel it anyway. In their steadiness, in their subtle protection, in their effort to keep connection without losing themselves. They love like it's a secret, but one they desperately want you to decode. You won't see the moment they realize they've fallen. It happens silently. Maybe it's when you laugh at something small, or when you look at them and they suddenly feel seen. Too seen. It's overwhelming, beautiful, and terrifying, because love for them has always been the place where pain hides, and now they're standing in front of it again, hoping this time it won't break them. By the time they've fallen, they're already terrified, not of you, but of what you make them feel. Because love, for the avoidant, isn't a warm landing, it's an alarm. Their body interprets closeness as something dangerous, something that might trap them, control them, or take away the freedom they built their identity around. So even when they want you, they fight the wanting. They'll test you, not intentionally, but instinctively. They'll pull back to see if you'll chase. They'll go quiet to see if you'll stay. They don't mean to play games. This is how they measure safety, because in their world, love has always been conditional. So they test the conditions, hoping you'll prove them wrong. But these tests aren't for your loyalty, they're for your stability. They want to know, will you still be calm? When they retreat, will you hold your ground? When they panic, will you stay kind? When they pull away and pretend they don't care? Because that's when their nervous system is loudest, and your calm is what tells them, maybe this time, love doesn't mean danger. They won't tell you this, but they watch everything. Your tone, your timing, your reactions. They notice how you handle disappointment, how you hold their silence, how you respond when they get distant. Every small thing becomes data, because to the avoidant, safety isn't built through words. It's proven through predictability. They fall deeper when they realize you don't punish them for space. When they see you can hold love steady without demanding it perform. Still, that doesn't mean it's easy, because every time they start to feel close, Their body remembers what happened the last time they did, how love turned into loss, how connection turned into control, how being seen became being suffocated. So their instinct is to protect, to keep a little distance, to hold a piece of themselves back, just enough to breathe. They don't know how to be in love without also guarding themselves from it. This is where most people mistake their fear for indifference. But if you could see what's happening underneath, you'd see a storm. They're constantly negotiating with their own heart. Don't get too close. Don't ruin it. Don't let them see too much. But please don't leave. Every word, every silence is a push and pull between craving connection and craving safety. When they miss you, they'll distract themselves. Work, music, anything to drown out the ache. Because reaching out feels too vulnerable. So they tell themselves, you don't care, that you've moved on, that they're better off staying quiet. But at night, when everything slows down, their walls start to whisper, and they think of you, not in dramatic ways, just quiet flashes. Your laugh, your words, the way you made them feel safe, without demanding anything. And they wonder if they ruined something that could have healed them. You'll never see it on their face. They're too practiced at calm. But inside, they're unraveling. Avoidants don't break down in public. They break down in silence, in the stillness between messages, in the songs they replay and pretend mean nothing. And every time they think of you, they feel the war between who they've always been and who they want to be with you. If you stay close long enough, you'll start to notice how their love tries to leak through the cracks. They'll do small things they can't explain, a favor that seems random, a text that arrives at the exact moment you needed it. They won't say, I miss you. They'll say, I thought of this. You'd like it. That's their way of reaching out without admitting need. Because to them, needing someone has always felt dangerous. But wanting you quietly, that feels safe enough to try. Their love language is contradiction. They want closeness, but feel suffocated by it. They crave intimacy, but panic when it's offered. They long to be chosen, but flinch when they are. It's confusing to watch. It's exhausting to live inside. But that's what love looks like. When you've spent years associating attachment with pain, they're not trying to hurt you. They're trying to protect themselves from reliving the hurt that taught them to hide. And here's the truth most miss. When the avoidant falls in love, it's not a lack of emotion. It's an overload. They feel everything. They just can't regulate it. Their body goes into survival mode. At the very moment, their heart wants to surrender. And that's why they vanish. That's why they shut down. That's why they push you away right after you get close. Not because they stopped loving you, but because they don't yet know how to feel safe while being loved. It's tragic, really, because what they want most is the very thing they fear. They want to be held, but flinch at touch. They want to be understood, but hide their truth. They want to be chosen, but never believe they will be. So their love becomes a series of half-open doors, invitations they hope you'll notice, but never force open, because forcing has always meant danger. But gentle presence, that's what starts to melt the ice. The avoidant doesn't heal through pressure. They heal through consistency. They need someone who doesn't take their withdrawal personally, someone who stays warm, without chasing, patient, but not performative. Because when they see that you can be calm while they find their footing, their nervous system learns that safety can exist inside connection. And that's when their love starts to become visible. It won't be dramatic. It'll be subtle. Softer messages, longer eye contact, a comfort in their presence that wasn't there before. They'll start to laugh more, stay longer, trust silence again. That's what it looks like when an avoidant is no longer falling in fear, but resting in love. When they finally stop running, it's not sudden, it's quiet, almost unnoticeable. They don't make grand confessions. They don't plan a speech. They just start showing up differently. The walls are still there, but they stop holding them so tightly. They start breathing again around you, and you can feel it before they ever say a word. Love for them isn't in declarations, it's in ease. It's in how their shoulders drop when they sit next to you, how they don't need the music too loud anymore, how their phone stays face up on the table without needing to hide. That's what safety looks like for them. Not fireworks, but the absence of alarms. The first sign they trust you isn't in what they say, it's in what they no longer control. They let the conversation wander. They let silence exist without filling it with withdrawal. They start to allow your presence to just be there. That's huge for them. Because before you, silence meant pressure, closeness meant danger, and being seen meant eventually being shamed for it. But with you, those meanings start to rewrite themselves. You'll notice it in the smallest ways. They'll send a photo without context, just something that made them think of you. They'll remember details you didn't think mattered. Your coffee order, the song you liked, the way you paused before laughing. They'll start to open small windows into their world, not all at once, but enough to say, you can stand here with me for a bit. That's their version of affection. They may still pull back sometimes, not because they've lost interest, but because their old wiring still whispers warnings. The difference now? They come back sooner. They don't let the silence stretch too long. They text again. They explain, even just a little. And that's monumental. Because before, they would have disappeared completely. Now, they're learning. That repair doesn't mean losing control. That love can stretch and still be safe. When they trust you, their body language changes. They'll lean in more. Their eyes soften. Their breath sinks closer to yours. You'll feel the weight of their guard start to lift, and beneath it, you'll see how deep their love actually runs. Avoidants don't love half-heartedly. They love intensely. They just learn to bury it under composure and logic. But once they believe, you won't misuse their openness. It floods through everything. You'll start to hear we more often than I. Not forced, not planned, just slipping naturally into sentences. That's them reprogramming their language. From isolation to inclusion, you'll hear it in subtle phrases. We should go there. We'd like that. We've got time. They start to build a small us. And that's how they say, I trust this. Their affection often looks more practical than poetic. They'll fix things, offer help, check in quietly, not for attention, for connection. Love, to them, is reliability, consistency, doing what they say they'll do. It's not about flowers or words. It's about showing up in the places they once hid from. Sometimes, they'll surprise you with a small burst of vulnerability, a story about their childhood, a moment they messed up, a confession that sounds casual, but feels like a lifetime of guarded truth. That's sacred ground, because for someone who's lived behind an emotional firewall, letting you see that piece isn't just trust, it's transformation. When they're in love, they don't rush to say it. They live it first. They'll spend time, be present, let you in. They won't always use words to label what's happening, but their actions will say everything. I feel safe with you. I'm not trying to escape anymore. I want this to last. You'll notice how they start to enjoy the moments they once tried to skip. Slow mornings, quiet dinners, doing nothing together. Because for them, peace used to feel like boredom until you showed them. It could feel like belonging. And then, The love becomes visible. They'll reach for your hand without thinking. They'll text first. They'll laugh deeper. They'll start to relax in the presence of your love instead of resisting it. That's how you'll know you've reached the version of them they always hid, the one that wants connection without fear, that believes maybe this time it won't fall apart. Because the truth is, avoidants don't fall in love lightly. It takes everything in them to trust it's real. And when they do, it's not surface love. It's devotion. It's quiet loyalty. It's the kind that doesn't need words to be known. They'll never tell the world. They'll just live differently, softer, braver, calmer. Because love, when it's safe, doesn't change who they are. It reminds them who they always were. Before the fear, when they finally let love stay, it doesn't feel like falling anymore. It feels like landing. And for the avoidant, that's the greatest miracle, because they've spent their whole life believing love meant losing themselves. And now, for the first time, they realize it can mean coming home. It doesn't happen overnight. Healing never does. They'll still have moments where they pull away, still have days where safety feels too close. But instead of disappearing, they return. And every time they do, their nervous system rewires a little more. They start to understand that love doesn't have to hurt to be real. That being chosen doesn't mean being trapped. That closeness can exist without control. And here's what no one tells you. When an avoidant learns safety through love, they become deeply present. They notice everything: your moods, your patterns, your needs, even the unspoken ones. Because once their guard drops, their natural sensitivity reappears. It was never gone, just hidden under survival. They love with an awareness that feels grounding, intentional, steady. They'll begin to express affection more freely, not to prove something, but because it finally feels natural. A soft hand on your back, an unplanned "I missed you," a kiss that lingers. Because they're no longer counting the seconds. They start to enjoy the connection they used to monitor. And that's the turning point. Love stops being a threat. It becomes an anchor. You'll notice their rhythms shift. They start showing up consistently, not out of obligation, but because presence feels good now. That's huge for them. Avoidants are used to calm being followed by chaos. So when love stays steady, their body finally relaxes into trust. They learn that peace isn't the prelude to pain. It can be the point. In this stage, their version of love deepens in silence. They'll do things that go unseen. Protect you when you're not looking. Listen when you're venting. Remember small things you said months ago. They start to become safe. And that's how you'll know their love has healed. When they stop needing distance to feel free. The irony is, they always wanted to love this way, but the fear of being consumed kept them from trying. They weren't afraid of you. They were afraid of disappearing inside love. But when you showed them that connection could coexist with independence, you rewrote their entire definition of intimacy. That's what changes everything. Because now, they no longer love to survive. They love to share. They'll start speaking their needs in a way they never could before. Not defensively, not indirectly, but openly. They'll tell you when they're overwhelmed, when they need space, and when they don't. They'll communicate because they trust. You won't weaponize their honesty. That's growth. That's love becoming conscious. And maybe that's the most beautiful part. Not the fireworks, not the passion, but the peace. Because for the avoidant, peace used to feel like danger. Now it feels like home. When they reach this point, love isn't about escaping loneliness. It's about expanding together. They become softer, more emotionally fluent, more alive in their skin. And you start to see what all that distance was protecting. A heart that always felt too much. A mind that always wanted safety. A soul that just needed time to trust it could stay. So if you've loved someone like this, someone who ran when it got real, who hid their heart behind logic, who made you question if they ever cared, remember this. They did. They cared so deeply. It scared them. And if you ever find them again, you'll see it. Not in the way they chase, but in the way they stay. Quietly, intentionally, wholly. Because avoidants don't fall in love often. But when they do, and when it's safe, it changes them. And that love, the one they once buried, becomes the most honest thing about them. If this spoke to you, remember, not every runner is lost. Some are just learning how to walk toward love without fear,